our tour bus broke down in El Paso, Texas. And we go buy some beer at the liquor store, and we run into this guy named James who has a YouTube channel. And he tells me that he designed a knife. A bitch a knife, too. It's called the Snake Eater. Alright, guys, so that's enough of that. Thank you so much for joining us on our third annual Halloween special for Junkyard Fox. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. This is not what we had planned for Halloween. We had planned this big production-heavy project. Unfortunately, we ran into some setbacks, as to be expected. So that video is coming much later. For now, I just kind of had to scramble some costume together and make a video. So today, what we're going to do is be talking about the new Snake Eater. You've seen the video before. You've seen several videos of testing the first prototype. And as you can see, we have a second one. So I'm going to break down the stats, what's changed, and we're getting closer to production. So thank you so much for joining me. Let's get started. By the way, I hope you all know who I'm playing. I'm dressed as the guitar player Slash from Guns N' Roses. I happen to be a very big rock and roll fanatic, particularly 80s rock. And Slash is a legend. So I was just scrambling to get a costume together, so not too bad. Anyway, so let's get to it. So about a month ago, you saw me introduce my knife design, the Snake Eater, made by Woody Smith from Woody Smith Knives or Wood Steel Knives. Check him out on Instagram. Extremely talented guy, extremely underrated. And I have a 20-minute video talking about this knife, my influences, what it's designed for, what it's designed not to. So I'm not going to go too much in detail here. You can check out that video. I have it up here at the top if you haven't yet. I end that video by saying that though this is theoretical, this was something that came, from my mind, a sketch. Next comes, real world practice, real world testing, because some things that are in a paper may not work in the real world. So by using it, I know what's working, what's not, what needs some honing, and so on and so forth. I also have about 4 short raw footage testing videos where you see this in a fishing trip, gutting some trout, making a fire. I have another one where I make a cactus container and boil water in it to make it drinkable. Everyday carry tasks like cutting cordage and rope and, cardboard and all that. So you see it in different ways, making a figure 4 deadfall trap. So after testing for about a month and a half, or almost 2 months at this point, I was comfortable with what can be changed. So, going back and forth between me and Woody, brainstorming and figuring out these details. As you can tell, the next one, though similar, does have its differences, particularly in the handle and on the Scandi grind. So we're going to break that down. Some of the changes come from me testing the knife and knowing that some things need to be changed, or not need to be changed, but just slightly altered or focused. And then some of the stuff we got from feedback from you guys, the viewers, because let's be honest, we also want to sell them, of course. So it, compromise is a good thing as long as it's done right. So the biggest change you see here is this one has a finger guard. Now, I don't normally care for finger guards. I'm used to using the Green River knife that doesn't have one, or knives such as these, like this old Mora. It has no finger guard. I've never had any issues with cutting my finger or anything, but I understand, if consumers have any issues with that, better safe than sorry. So we added one, and we didn't want something too obtrusive, too large, where it's going to mess with the aesthetics or the design. So it's something like a little nub, something kind of like the LT-Right Genesis, and it works wonderfully. Even though it's small, it's big enough to tell your finger to not go past that, and not too obtrusive. It actually looks really nice. Another difference, as you can tell, is the handle is much bigger. Going back to my days of using the Green River knife, it has a fairly small handle compared to the blade, about 40% handle, 60% blade. That's a direct, descendant of, using the Green River knife. So in this one, because I know a lot of people complain about that, people that may have larger hands than me, we did make the handle larger. And this was Woody's idea. What he did is he extended the handle so the pommel is smaller, and it is hidden as well. And these, as you can tell, this is black micarta with orange liners. Oddly festive for Halloween. This is just complete accident. This is just complete coincidence. This blade is actually going to be Cuervo Negro's blade. And Cuervo's, he chose black with orange. And I like that because whether accidental or not, it looks like the ring-tailed snake, which I think is really interesting. And I'll put a picture of the ring-tailed snake. It's a beautiful animal. So that's really cool. Another change, as you can tell, is that it's a little thinner from how chunky the other handle is, the first one. I like them both, so as of right now, I just got to test this one out, see if I get any hot spots, any cramping, anything like that. But both work really good right now. Okay, and now let's go ahead and talk about the blade. One more thing to talk about is, as I said in the first video, this is a very thin blade, 3/32 inch thick, or should I say thin, designed for slicing, game processing, camp cooking. For those of you who are worried that this might be too thin for outdoors tasks, which I've never had an issue, but what Woody decided to do is he actually started using the stock of a 1/8 inch thick blade, so it's thicker, and then it tapers down into a thin blade. So if you notice, it is a thicker, especially down here in the pommel. You can see that it is a thicker pommel, and there's more blade in the handle in terms of thickness than the first one. And then it just thins out over here. So now let's go ahead and talk about the blade. The blade itself hasn't changed too much in terms of design. It just has gotten a bit shorter. Giving more real estate to the handle has made, of course, the blade a little bit shorter. That's just, cause and effect. It's still functional. It still has that multi-grind. It has that Scandi that turns into a flat. If you do notice, the Scandi is shorter than the first one, though. This Scandi down here was very high, but because it's 3/32 inch thick and it is a high Scandi, it wasn't cutting as good as other Scandis. When I would test it against, say, the Mora Companion. It still did good, but it kind of behaved more like a saber. So that was the only critique that I had with the first one. So as I relayed this to Woody, he made it shorter, so that way it has more shoulder and it's more aggressive. And testing this blade out, I have noticed it is better at whittling and all that. So it has been improved, and of course it tapers down to a scalpel of a flat grind at the end. Once again, for processing game, chopping veggies, all that stuff. And while we're here, you can see Woody Smith's logo, the woodpecker. But something has been added to the second knife. The first one on the other side only had the L for AEBL steel. The second one has a Junkyard Fox logo. So look at that. It looks beautiful. And as I'm using it, it is kind of getting a little bit of a patina, so it kind of gives it like a little bit more contour to it, like it gives it more dimension. It looks really cool. Okay, now once again, if you have not seen the first video where I introduced the knife, the philosophy for it, the design influence, all that stuff, I highly recommend checking that out first. I'll have a playlist with that, and then 4 other videos with the raw footage of this knife being tested. Now, one thing I did leave out of that video is, why is it called the Snake Eater? And I've gotten that question a lot. It's an unconventional name for a knife, and I kind of like it because it sounds really badass one minute and it sounds extremely stupid the next, and I can't think of a more James Harris thing than those two things combined. Reason why I named it the Snake Eaters, there's 2 meanings. One is a literal one. This thing is going to be used for cutting up snakes and cooking them. I do a lot of hunting and gathering, a lot of camp cooking, so, foraging, all that stuff, fishing. So I like to use my knives a lot more than I guess a lot of the other bushcraft channels on YouTube when it comes to processing game. So I definitely wanted a thin blade that can really get in there and, just cut off the fur on a rabbit, that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Snake Eater. We have a video cutting up a snake, catching and cooking one if you want to check it out. But yeah, I mean, you've seen in this video, on this channel, you've seen dove, quail, trout, catfish, crayfish, rabbit, ground squirrel, all that stuff. You've seen a bunch of animals getting cooked on this channel. But just Dove Eater just doesn't sound as cool, right? So yeah, once again, literal catching and cooking, hunting and gathering, foraging, all that stuff. The second one is also because it's the name of a video game that really influenced me growing up, which is called Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. It came out in around 2004. I believe I was about 15 at the time. And, you know, back then when I was 14, 15, I didn't catch and cook. I didn't live in the outdoors. I wasn't doing this stuff. But this character that you play, Naked Snake, it's in the 60s, and he's behind enemy lines in the Soviet Union, and he has to survive by living off the land. So he's hunting snakes and rabbits and all this stuff and eating wild food to sustain his stamina as he takes care of what he's got to do for his mission. I even played him in that catch and cook rattlesnake video. I'll put the link up here so you can check it out. I even dressed as him and everything. Cuervo made a song cover for the song of the video game, but a beautiful game. I love it so much. So it was my tribute to one of my childhood influences that got me from being a little kid influenced, you know, playing a video game, to me as an adult directly doing the things I was doing as a kid. So yeah, I never want to get my ego big enough where I'm embarrassed or I don't want to talk about the things that influenced me, no matter how dorky. And one last thing is, honestly, when I look at knives, a lot of times they're the same names recycled all the time. Look at anybody who makes knives, any company, they got the bushcrafter, they got the hunter, they got the trekker, you know, all these that it's the same thing over and over. So I wanted to break up that monotony and do something a little bit different. And one last thing that I've gotten a lot of questions is, what sheath system is this going to come with? Guys, it's taking a lot of time to develop the knife. It's tricky with the multi-grind and all the changes. So we're not going to, you know, overcomplicate it by making a fancy sheath. So what we're doing is we're using JRE leather sheaths like LT Wright does. And they fit in there just fine. So if you want to order yours with the sheath, this works just fine. It's not the tightest of fits, but once again, you could just, you know, wet form it and it'll be fine. Or in case you already have LT Wright sheaths and you already want to order one, maybe you don't have to get one if you already have a sheath laying around. Or take it somewhere custom to have their own sheaths. I will probably eventually get my own custom leather sheath. But yeah. Simplistic, nothing too fancy, but it's functional. The dangler sheath, a ferro rod loop if you like, and it also doubles for a honing, you know, to strop. It helps you to strop your blade in the field. So yeah, sheath system. Okay, folks, so that's about the conclusion of this video. Thank you so much for watching and joining me in this process as we develop our knife. It is something that's so exhilarating and exciting, so it's a really fun process to see it happen, and we're getting there. I mean, this is almost done. I think we're about 90% there with the new design. One thing that I'm going to say now that I think I'm going to prefer from the first one, which I do prefer the first one in general, just out of bias, but just the hump on the blade and the belly is a little shorter on the new one, like a little smaller, where the older one has a more pronounced belly and hump. I'll probably just transfer that to the final design and widen this out. I really ended up liking that, but we'll see. And that's about it for us, guys. So thank you so much. Link down below to follow Woody Smith Knives on Instagram. Extremely talented maker. Trust me, he's an up-and-comer in the knife scene. Really great guy as well. And that's about it for us, guys. So thank you for joining us. Give us a like if you enjoyed this video. Comment down below if you have any questions, and I'll be sure to respond. And that's about it. Thank you for joining us in another Halloween special video. So we'll see you guys next week with another video. Now go outside and get your boots dirty.